Thank you everyone for joining today's webinar, Managing Your Expenses During COVID-19 and Beyond. This is a webinar presented by Career Loans. Now, who's here today? I'm Gavin Young. I'm the content creator of Career Loans. As you can also see, I'm joined by Claudia Valenzuela, my coworker, an information and financial counselor with Career Loans. And later we'll be hearing from our guest speaker today, Ann Arbor, a financial educator from Credit Counseling Society. Today's agenda is here. First, we're going to hear from Claudia Valenzuela about Career Loans, a brief presentation about what the program is. And then we will hear from our guest speaker, Ann Arbor from Credit Counseling Society. We will have a short Q&A session. I'll be monitoring the chats, so please feel free to send us a message in the chat, a question, and in this Q&A session, I will be directing these questions to our guest. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Claudia Valenzuela to talk about Career Loans.
Okay, thank you so much, Kevin. So just give me 1 second here. First of all, we are very, very excited to deliver this workshop, and thank you, Kevin, for the housekeeping stuff. So I'm just gonna talk very briefly about our program. Career Loans is a program that is a virtual program for the provinces of Saskatchewan and Alberta. This program is the government of Canada, is administered by the Center of Education and Training, and the financial institution that we work with is HSBC. So just to give you a quick idea about our program, I'm just gonna play briefly our video.
Are you a permanent resident, convention refugee, or Canadian citizen residing in Alberta or Saskatchewan? Are you an internationally trained individual in a regulated or non-regulated occupation? If you are not finding a job in your field, need career counseling, are unable to secure funds for training, or have been declined for traditional loans, then Career Loans can help. Career Loans is a virtual program that has partnered with HSBC Canada to provide financial counseling, career counseling, loans of up to $15,000, referrals to employment services, alternative career advice, and a guide to the accreditation process. Our expert counselors will coach you on your career goals and enable you to reach your full potential. If you would like to apply for a loan, our counselors will refer you to our financial partner, HSBC Canada. After assessing your financial situation, if you are eligible, your loan will get approved. You then have up to 4 years to pay off your loan at an affordable, locked-in interest rate. This way, you don't have to worry about increasing interest rates or being buried under rising debt. Throughout the process, our expert counselors will be available to guide, mentor, and ensure you are on the right path to achieving your career goals.
So I'm just going to give you a quick summary. So as the program says, is virtually delivered for the provinces of Alberta and Saskatchewan for international trained professionals. Career Loans provide free career support services and assistance with microloan applications. And also, if you want to return to your career of choice, or sometimes you may decide to take an alternative route, we can assist you with that. So who's eligible? International trained professionals in regulated and non-regulated occupations and trades. We have many doctors, dentists, financial advisors. We have also accountants, a big variety of different professions. And for being eligible as well, you have to reside in Alberta or Saskatchewan, be a permanent resident, Canadian citizen, or conventional refugee with established status, and a minimum Canadian language benchmark level of 5. So meaning that is I always say it's a workable language level, that you are able to communicate your thoughts clearly, and depending on the type of career that you are aiming for, your level would be a little bit higher. Some of the great features that we have besides the career and financial counseling advice is the low interest rate that we have right now, plus microloans up to $15,000, a minimum of $1,500. Also, career loans provide referrals to employment services and to guide you through the accreditation process and advise you in additional alternative careers that might happen at this point, as a lot of individuals are going through different transitions. Some of the benefits that we offer, and you becoming a member, is having access to webinars, having live guest speakers as we have on today, and we're very excited about that. We have expert counselors between Rodica, who is the information and financial advisor for Alberta, and myself, that I am in Saskatchewan. We have over 4 decades of experience with international trained professionals. So you can rest assured that you will have the best advice possible. You also receive the latest industry trends information. So there are many benefits besides also great blogs and information that will be very relevant at this point for you. So how we can help you? First of all, the first step is to have a virtual counseling session and to determine your career paths and next steps. And that's what we call in counseling and assessment, to have an idea where is it that you want to go, what sort of things you need to do, what sort of desired occupations you're aiming for. So depending on that, so clients will be referred to local service providers, either in Saskatchewan or Alberta, and will obtain personal referral based on the situation. If you decide to proceed further and continue with a microloan, the counselor will be able to help you with the microloan application. Our microloan is provided by our partners at the HSBC, and the microloan is up to $15,000, as we mentioned before. The low interest is what HSBC Prime has, plus 2% or better. And the loan repayment is up to 4 years, depending on your situation. And I'll be happy to answer questions. Some people might say, well, how I'm gonna determine that? It depends on the amount of money that you wanna borrow. So it's some of the expenses that are covered, for instance, credential assessment or accreditation that you may need to pursue your certification or your designation, exam fees, tuition fees, books, licensing, membership, association fees, union fees. Also, for instance, I have some clients that have situations like they have to attend seminars to complete a semester, so those expenses are covered as well. If you have a placement or practicum hours that you need to complete as well, and it will cost you additional money, those expenses can be covered too. So for further information and reference, please visit our website at www.careerloans.ca or email us at info@careerloans.ca, and you see the contact for Alberta is my colleague Rodica at info.ab@careerloans.ca, and for Saskatchewan, myself, info.sk@careerloans.ca. So with that said, just give me 1 second. I'm just gonna stop sharing. Okay. And now, to continue on, and part of our services is to provide you with the right information that will give you tangible tools to use. And for that reason, we invite Ann Arbor today to share her expertise in managing your finances in challenging and interesting times like this. So welcome. We want to welcome Ann Arbor to this presentation today. Just want to give you a little bit of a bio regarding her amazing contribution in this aspect. So Ann is the Credit Counseling Society's financial educator for the GTA and most provinces across Canada. And she has 30 years of combined experience in facilitation and financial services. She also holds an MBA and is a certified educator in personal finance, and has been interviewed by print, television, and digital media outlets on topics related to personal finance, and has sat on several expert panels and advisory groups. She currently serves on 2 financial literacy networks serving youth and women respectively, and we are so thrilled to have you on board. And so please, the floor is all yours.
Thank you very much. And boy, I'm going to come here every day because you are all so nice, and not everyone's always so happy to see me. So that's great. I'm working off 2 screens, so if I'm going to try and look at the camera, but thank you, Claudia, and thank you, Gavin, for the warm welcome and for all the arrangements, and to everyone for attending today. Yeah, we are coming together under some very strange circumstances. Usually I'm doing workshops in person or doing webinars for groups with various different focuses and various different interests, but boy, we're all in this together today. It's very interesting times, to say the least, and I am sure they've affected your plans to a degree, but today what I want to talk about is managing the finances, or your finances right now. Claudia and I were speaking earlier, it's, we're really trying to make this move from the panic, from how do we just manage in the emergency, to actually now focusing forward, and how can you take this time to put yourself in a good situation, so that when it's time, you're ready to move forward and go on with your plans. Just to give, again, just a mention, please, to definitely use the chat to register any questions. You've got my email address as well, and I'll share some other resources. You are more than welcome to access. Everything is free and confidential, so we can help support you as well. And the resources that Claudia and her teams have are wonderful as you try and get settled and get your career going here. Just a little bit of background, the Credit Counseling Society, we have a very simple mandate. We serve the provinces from British Columbia through Ontario, so we've got Alberta and Saskatchewan covered, and as well as the 2 Northwest Territories and the Yukon, providing free and confidential credit and budget counseling. So 6 days a week, we've got a client care team and counselors available. We support about 15 languages at the moment. Not everyone's available on the phone, but in and amongst all of our staff, we cover a wide swath of languages. So if it's more comfortable to, when it comes to money, their emotions are high, so we can try and accommodate that. We have some debt solutions. And we also have a big education team. So there are 11 of us, well, 12 of us, one's on mat leave at the moment, covering those provinces, including Alberta and Saskatchewan. We've got some great educators on the ground there as well. We provide free webinars every month. They're live on all different topics, 25 to 28 in a month. You're welcome to come on to take advantage of those, to learn about the banking system, about lending, about credit, about saving money on food and finance and food and different things around the house. So all different topics, and we're here to support as well on your financial as well as your career journey. So today what I'd love to talk about again is managing right now and putting ourselves in a great place and developing that course of action to move forward. So if you are facing no income or a reduced income at the moment, how to manage there, looking at the income side of things and also looking at the expense side, so cutting some expenses. And just so that, again, putting together that course of action so we're in a good place to move forward. We'll talk about both sides of the equation. Right? You want to be able to bring some more money in, have a little less going out, and definitely talking about impulse spending. We are all human, and we are all, at the best of times, susceptible to it. So taking a look at a couple of things just to keep in mind, especially during these strange times, and how to manage any debt or credit that you may be dealing with at the moment. But with some good points for in the future, if you're taking on a loan or things like that, just to put yourself in the right position. If there are any questions that are immediate, I'm going to take a quick look through the chat, but Gavin can bring anything to my attention, and otherwise I'm just going to go through. What's really important now is these are such unusual times. my kids like to say I exaggerate a little, but I never really expected a pandemic in my lifetime, and the effect that it has had on all of us. There's so much going on in the world, and it's so easy to let it overwhelm us. Really, especially when it comes to money, there is so much emotion, and there's so much emotion wrapped up in it. It can be feelings of inadequacy, of shame, of embarrassment, of stress, all those kinds of things. The best thing we can do right now when it comes to managing through the pandemic is really focus on what's in your control, because there's so much outside of our control right now. The news cycle coming at us and the information is all over. So really focusing on your own feelings and behaviors. And I know we're talking about money, but feelings and those touchy-feely things come into play quite a bit. Looking at our own spending and the resources we can access. I read very early on during this whole, very early in the shutdown, that what we were experiencing, or what we continue to experience, is very similar to the different stages of grief. And there was all kinds of reasons why, but the same idea of anger, of disbelief or denial, of worry and stress and all those kinds of things. So when everyone around us, potentially on social media, seems to be, thinking this is the greatest thing, and we'll all bake sourdough bread, and we'll get into our tie-dye sweatsuits and live our best life working from home or doing things, there are very real problems facing very real people. There is job loss. There are plans that have been put on hold, like many of your own, because things are stalled. So it's very natural to have a lot of emotions around it. And I think the most important thing is to give ourselves a bit of space and grace to feel those emotions. Even if you've managed fine up until now, this has been going on a little while. Because the only way to move through those feelings, or to move past them, is to move through them. So giving yourself a bit of room to feel upset or feel depressed, and reach out for help when you need it, if it's something that isn't going away, and understanding that everybody is feeling something like that. So we can move past that. And now, what are the real concrete things we can do? In terms of dealing with reduced income, or no income, or just in these things, again, we can focus on finding some income, in reducing expenses, and some of the other things that affect us financially. So hopefully by now, if you have had the need, you've accessed some resources. So things like the employment insurance benefits, or the CERB benefit, or in combination. We're reaching a time, it'll come around in July, where if you have had any employment insurance, that's going to run out. So making sure you know what you're eligible for on the CERB side of things. If you have any kinds of emergency savings, this is not a drill. This is the emergency. So accessing those kinds of funds. We've had lots of questions about accessing any kinds of savings when investments particularly have taken a bit of a dive in the markets. What's really important to know about those kinds of things is to be careful what kind of tax implication might be triggered. So if you're pulling money out of certain protected savings, and we can get into the technicalities of those, making sure that you understand that there could be a tax implication down the road. And even things like the CERB, that is taxable income. I will be very interested to see next April how the government decides to deal with that, because some of that money will have to be paid back. In the height of the emergency, the name of the game was getting money to people and preserving cash flow. Now it's going to be, how do we deal with that after the fact? So making sure, and I will say, when it comes to accessing resources or anything like that, please, please, please make sure you are accessing trusted sources. This really unusual time in our history has brought out the very best in humanity in a lot of cases. There are all kinds of wonderful things happening. There are also all kinds of horrible things happening, and it also brings out the worst in people. And there are a lot of groups that are more than willing to take advantage of vulnerable people and give them misinformation. So please make sure you're, in terms of eligibility and all those kinds of things, you are accessing the Canada.ca website. That's the federal government's website. Your provincial website, your municipal website. What information Claudia and Radhika can give you. These are, we have our own coronavirus page on nomordebts.org, and I'll give that in writing in a moment. That you're accessing trusted sources, because there are lots of scammers and fraudsters out there who are trying to take advantage and sending you information like, let's see what you're eligible for, and you're giving away a lot of personal information. You want to be very careful. The government sites at all 3 levels are very clear and very user-friendly. I think they've all done a very good job in getting that information out there, so you don't need to go beyond. In terms of increasing income, when all of this first started, it didn't look like there were many options. Of course, most people were losing hours and losing jobs. Different opportunities have started to pop up. Again, it's fun to see what people are making of this and what opportunities are coming out of it. But more, I think, as businesses open up and try and get back on, I know there's been hiring going on. Even the Home Depot down the road from me has been hiring. A few people locally have picked up some shifts doing the curbside pickup, and the weather's good, so they're happy to be outside right now, finally here. So, it's not work they were trained for or what they're hoping for, but it's work, and it's temporary, and it's helping put some food on the table. So seeing what other opportunities are out there, lots of virtual opportunities as well. If you're a bookkeeper, a graphic designer, a writer, an editor, all kinds of online freelance sites and virtual assistant and virtual work. Just again, please making sure that it's legitimate and safe, and you're not getting involved in something not legal and ethical or moral. For a lot of people, this is a great opportunity to be starting a business. And I know a good friend of mine has been cleaning out her closets like a whirling dervish. That's how she's been managing her stress, and she's found all kinds of things she can now sell online. So on Facebook Marketplace or some of these other online sites, these aren't material things that are serving her at the moment, so she's making them available to others to be able to make use of them, and making a little cash on the side. So just some ideas there in terms of the increasing the income. The bigger piece comes in when we're talking about dealing with reduced income, is on the expense side. And this is the time to budget. This is not the time to say, well, these are unusual times, I'm going to throw it out the window. This is the time to really take a good look at what you're spending and how things have changed in your spending over the last 8 to 10 weeks, and what of those changes you can keep going forward with, and what you're learning about your spending, especially as you're preparing to potentially take on loans and those obligations. Knowing your numbers inside and out, will make it a much easier conversation to have with the lenders, but also in terms of making that plan for how you can incorporate that loan into your day-to-day, to be paying that back as you move forward in your career plans. It's a great time to be cutting expenses. Budget, if any one of you is a great marketer, please give me a better word. It's not, it's a bit of a snooze, right? Nobody loves to budget. It's much more fun to spend and do things than it is to, for some of us, than it is to budget. What it really comes down to is having a written plan of some form, whether that is a fancy spreadsheet or it's written in a notebook, but knowing your numbers, knowing what money is coming in and what money is going out. And it's important that it's written down because it's dynamic. Things change all the time. Your income has probably changed in the last little while. Your expenses have changed. How does that affect you? our budgets, you and I could make exactly the same amount of money, but we're going to spend it differently based on choices, priorities, responsibilities, those kinds of things. So everyone's budget will look slightly different, but they'll all contain the same basics, same shape to it. So you want to start from a point of net pay. How much money, not if you have a salary, what they told you were making for the year, you don't just divide that by 12 and think that's what you have to spend every month. What money's actually going into the bank? So if you were paid in actual money, how much would you have in your hand, in your pocket, to spend until the next check came through? That's the point of the starting point for a budget. And then it's deciding and knowing what expenses, what money you need to have on hand now to pay your regular monthly expenses, and what are you tucking aside for other things like your regular expenses and emergency savings and savings goals. Those are all aspects. We have another webinar, again, open to the public. We run it many, many times in a month. And I'll give you the website later, but it's mymoneycoach.ca, and you can just click on the calendar and register. It's free, it's confidential, and we talk about all those different other places where your money can go, and the things you need to be tucking aside for later and not forgetting in your budget. What I will also say, through our two websites, nomordebts.org and mymoneycoach.ca, we have an online budget builder, a budget tool that lets you run a few different, you can save different scenarios. So when you're evaluating a different job opportunity, or you're evaluating changes in your expenses, or you're evaluating the impact of taking on a loan, those kinds of things, you can save all those different scenarios, and it will walk you through all the different potential expenses and give you a nice pie chart summary of things. So that's a really great tool to be using to save different scenarios, to be able to compare. It makes it really, it's very simple and easy to use. What's really important through all of this, I mentioned, is knowing your numbers. So how are you tracking? Are you tracking? To me, a budget is like a puzzle, a jigsaw puzzle. You need to know the shape and size of all the pieces to make sure that they all fit together. You can't take a piece that's the wrong shape and try and pop it into a space where it doesn't fit. All of our puzzles have the same four corners. We all need a roof over our head. We all need food on the table. We all need some gas or bus money, usually, when we have places to go. And we all need some walking around money. Your puzzle might be 4 pieces big right now, but then it will be 6, and then it will be 12, and then it might go down to 8 as things change. So you need to know all the different pieces so you know how changes affect the other pieces. Tracking is, thank you very much, Gavin, for putting those links there. Tracking is the secret sauce. It's the thing that takes a budget from a wish list to a reality. It tells us the truth. We're holding a mirror up to ourselves. Again, human nature, it's such an interesting, so I studied economics in my undergraduate studies, and at that time it was just all rational markets, right? There was no consideration given to what now is behavioral economics, the human element, because we're not rational. We're human beings, and our behavior is affected in many different things, but tracking tells us the truth, because we lie to ourselves all the time. Maybe recently you had to buy a present for someone. So instead of going to the store, now you went online and you found something on Amazon. You said, okay, I'm going to spend $25. So you found something nice on Amazon for $24.99. Oh, yay, you're on budget. Click, buy, send, done. But are you really on budget? That item was $24.99, but what about taxes and shipping? And maybe you decided to get a gift wrapped and or include a gift card, those kinds of things. All of a sudden, a $25 gift that in our head is $25 on our statement out of our bank account was probably closer to 32 or something like that. So tracking, when we look at the numbers, they don't lie. it's so interesting, in many jobs, we are responsible for budgets or objectives. We have numbers we need to meet or that we're responsible for. We do this for the places where we work, but we don't always do it for ourselves. Who cares more about your money than you do? You're your own small business, really. So tracking tells you the truth. It shows you the habits. It shows you where there are opportunities. So when you're working and considering the size of the loan that you're going to take and how you're going to repay it and those kinds of things, you can factor that in, like what money is available to me and where can I make some cuts, where can I make some adjustments and changes to make that happen. At the end of the day, it's what gets us in control. So I spend a lot of time talking about tracking because it's really important. It's the thing that makes it all work. So many different ways to do it. Some of us love to write down in notebooks, pencil and paper. We've got some tracking forms on our website you can download. Of course, spreadsheets, software, those kinds of things. Most financial institutions have their own apps at the moment that you can access. There are third-party apps you can use as long as you don't connect your bank accounts because you don't want to violate your cardholder agreements. Lots of things and ways of doing it. Just find the system that works for you and start off slowly because, we get all excited and we want to do it and we start tracking everything and then we burn out. Better to pick one or two categories, probably the ones you'd be most afraid to admit to your mother, maybe where you spent your money. Start off slowly with one or two categories, get in the habit, find the system that works for you and build up from there. Some people will track, let's say, food, groceries and entertainment. Some people will just track anything under $50 because they'll remember the bigger amounts. It's really what works for you, but this is what's going to tell you where your money is going for real. And right now is a great time to learn to look at your spending and to look at the different categories because we're spending differently. What has changed? Are you not buying coffee every day when potentially you used to? What could you do with that money? Could you tuck that aside to start to build up an emergency fund or use to help so that you could maybe take a smaller loan, whatever it's going to be. Or maybe you were struggling to pay one particular area, but realized you're now saving another. So tracking is going to show you where to start and where you can make that new plan. Things like, your rent. If you've been maybe you've been okay up till now, or maybe your landlord hasn't been able to make any kind of concession. So I just want to watch the time. So double checking your housing costs. Transportation for sure is a place where a lot of us have been saving money right now. So I'm not driving to work and driving around town every day. I can't really remember the last time I filled up my car actually. I just, I go once a week to the grocery store, which is very close by. So that's definitely a savings, and I'm not using our toll highway and those kinds of things. So, where am I putting that money now? Am I using it to rebuild my emergency fund maybe, or something else? Food is a place where we spend a lot of money. We have another webinar, Food and Finance. Really important to be creating meal plans right now, and always, to be honest. And I'm constantly learning new ways to do it. We're home and we're spending more and more time cooking and cleaning, but making our meals. So it's important also, just from an emotional and physical standpoint, to focus on healthy, fresh meals. A lot of people are eating their feelings, but making that meal plan and making that grocery list so that, grocery shopping is no fun right now. We've got to get in and get out and follow the arrows. We've got arrows up and down the aisles. So having a list to work from is really, really can make the process a whole lot smoother. And maybe you stocked up at the beginning of the pandemic, thinking and not knowing, what was going to happen with the food supply, those kinds of things. Making sure to be shopping the pantry and the freezer. Maybe you've accumulated some things and it's time to start working your way through them rather than buying new. So where can you save some money there? and taking advantage of some of the apps that are out there. So Flip to find the savings, or there's one called Checkout 51 or Cart Smart. These are all rebate apps where you take a picture of your grocery receipt and you send it in, and they reimburse you or give you a commission for buying certain items. It's not a time to start changing your spending behavior, but certainly looking for where you can take advantage of rewards programs or cashbacks, all those kinds of things, to start combining those rewards to get a little bit of cash coming back in, which is a great way to do it. Very important, we want to support our local businesses, absolutely, 100%. It's been very interesting to see how a lot of the restaurants have pivoted. I was just saying, one of our local, a little Mexican restaurant, a food restaurant, has pivoted now to supplying groceries, which is great because I know they have access to certain things that I can't normally get. So I'm going to go see what they've got in terms of certain flours and things. But just again, this isn't the time to throw caution to the wind and just figure it out later. Things like ordering in, if you can limit it, it isn't an everyday thing. It can be really, really expensive. So being very careful in terms of how much you're doing that. If you're having any trouble paying your utility bills, definitely contacting your providers. I haven't heard of one yet that doesn't have a relief plan. So seeing what you're eligible for and seeing if you can take advantage of some of the savings that way. And I do know that most, if not all, providers again have, changed the time of day rates and those kinds of things to be evening all the time. So yeah, you can do laundry all day. But to help, because we're using so much more, we're home and we're using more electricity during the day. Now is also a great time to take a look. Entertainment. Remember that? We used to have fun. We used to go out and do things. But taking a look at your spending. So, when we were working or times we're going around back then, the odd subscription service. Maybe you have a meditation app here, you pay $1 here for audiobooks and this, that, and the other, all those little bits and pieces. Now's a really great time to go through and figure out what subscriptions are you really using and which ones are you just sort of paying for and forgetting about. They're phantom subscriptions, we call them. So run through and make sure you're definitely getting the value out of the resources that you're paying for. If you are not a member of your local public library, I would suggest going online. Many of them are allowing you to establish virtual memberships at the moment. The public libraries across the country are huge resources for streaming, and a lot of them have foreign language streaming services, movies, TV, music, games, webinars, programs, all kinds of reading clubs, all kinds of activities and resources over and above books. Free magazines you can download, all those kinds of things. So checking out your local library and seeing what's available there. It's a public service. And also signing up for your municipal website to see what's available there. There are lots of deals and things happening now. So really just combing through and seeing. So it's combing through some of the bigger items of your expenses, of your budget, and make some calls if you're sitting at home, seeing if you can get a better deal from your internet provider or your cell phone provider. We've got some time now. Make those calls. Another area we should really be careful of when we're sitting around and not doing when life has changed, is impulse spending. We are susceptible to this at the best of times when we're bored, we're trying to keep up with, our neighbors and have all the right things, those kinds of things, or we're just not paying attention. Very important, especially during this pandemic, is being aware of your trigger. So keep in mind the word tempo, and that stands for time, environment, mood, place, and occasion. So is there a time of day that you get bored? Is it the end of the day? It's been a long day and you're not able to do the things that you want to do. So you go online and a little mindless spending here, there, and buy yourself a treat and, whatever's going on. Is it the environment? You're spending a lot more time in your space and all of a sudden you're noticing things and maybe you want to have a more comfortable chair or get some candles or whatever it is your environment encouraging you to spend? So just keeping in mind, if you find yourself online or you find yourself spending a little more impulsively, what was the thing that triggered that and what's an alternative behavior? So if you're bored, can you find something else to do? Again, there's so much streaming online. There are concerts and plays and taking a tour of a national park. You can do a walkthrough virtually, all kinds of great things. So shifting your behavior a little, because I'm going to keep an eye on the time. Okay, just really important to watch your debt and your credit. It's very easy to spend. Maybe, you needed a new office chair, you needed some special work from home clothes or all these other things, and it was unusual times and you ordered out a lot, and, maybe there's a balance of $3,000 on a credit card. Usually I take some guesses, but just to shock you a little, if you came out of COVID, let's say with $3,000 on a credit card, and just thought, with no plan to pay it. So you're going to pay $60 at a time, which is the minimum payment, the real minimum payment, not the $10 they tell you can pay. I want you to guess in your own head how long you think that would take to pay off, and then I'll blow you away. So the math is it will take almost 53 years to pay off and over almost $13,000 in interest. So more than 4 times. I don't want to be thinking about, I won't be around 53 years from now, but if I were, I want to be thinking about, oh, remember that crazy time? Look how we came out of it, not still paying for it. If you can add some money, all of a sudden you're down to 3.5 years and much, much less interest. So having a plan for how you're going to pay off debt is always as important before you take it on as it is during. So knowing, let's say on a credit card, the minimum payment is always mostly interest and very, very little of the principal. So it takes a really long time to make any progress. Every dollar over and above the minimum will save you decades and thousands of dollars. And it is critical, if you're having any trouble, to reach out to your creditors yourself. Not to let it reach a crisis point, and they won't chase you. So right now there is a thing. Right now, most of the financial institutions have deferral programs. They have deals that they're giving. They're giving some relief, but they're only doing that for people who are calling them proactively, and within that making lower interest rates available. So if you're not sure, call them. The bottleneck in the timelines have reduced, so you shouldn't be on hold too long, but call and ask for help. They don't make them come chase you. You have many more options when you've done it. And at the end of the day, what's important right now is getting your financial piece, your numbers in order so you can set it and forget about it and really focus on what's important, which is your health, your friends, your family's health, the people around us, our neighbors, our fellow citizens. So remembering to look after yourself, protect yourself, your income and your expenses, and then work on the rest. So as usual, I talk too much. So I will just leave you with these habits, and I'm going to make a PDF of this available to anyone, and I should have said that at the beginning if you've been scribbling furiously, but my email is available as well if you have any questions at all, and our resources are available as well. Just quickly, we're on all over social media at My Money Coach, and that's for our counselor. So Gavin, are there any questions?
Thank you, Anne. That was a great presentation. and I think very insightful for a lot of us. We do have some questions, so also if Claudia, if you don't mind hopping back on the video, we can move on to the Q&A segment. So we did have a few questions in the chat. One of them, I guess we'll ask for Claudia first, is what if I'm planning to change careers? Can I obtain a loan and take exams or other relevant training for the new field of work?
Yes, the answer is yes. The key thing is to speak with us first, so then we create an action plan of key things that needs to be taken under consideration, and from there, depending on what alternative career the person wants to choose, so then we'll proceed the next steps in what maybe it's a licensing process. So what are step A, B, C, D that needs to be completed? What should be the total? And based on that, it will be the discussion. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Another quick question about career loans, and we'll get to you, Anne, in a bit.
Sure.
One of the attendees said my CLB is only level 4. Are there any options they can explore?
Depending on what is the background of the individual. So thinking, I would say that always keep in mind that the language is one thing that you always have to have it with you, right? And the more you practice, the more you prepare yourself on the side, the better it will be for you at any level. Even if you're trying to do something like entry level right now, because your level of communication might not be there yet. So then as time passes by, you will be able to improve and find better opportunities and take a college program or business writing communication. So that's progressively what would take, but I would say it is essential. There are certain things that can be done, yes, but think about how I'm gonna communicate. What would be the implications if I don't understand what the other person is telling me, or my employer is not understanding. I know of cases of clients, I worked with them in the past, they were doing some cleaning job and they couldn't understand the difference between one product and the other, right? So that is a huge issue for health and safety, for your own safety, right? So basic things like that, but that's something that have been, we need to discuss that in a session as well, because could be some options, but keep in mind always that you can cover the sun with one finger in a way, right? You just have to deal with that, prepare yourself the best way possible, and then move forward.
Mm-hmm. And one last question on the career loan side is we mentioned the micro loan. What do you mean by the prime rate? What is the present prime rate? And I guess the whole idea of paying back the interest prime plus 2, if you could just clarify that real briefly for our listeners.
Yeah, prime plus 2 is, or better, would be like around 4.45, what we have with HSBC. The prime is what all the banking institutions charge based on what the Bank of Canada established. And maybe Anne can help me with that, explaining a little bit more, because it's not as simple as it sounds.
Yeah. Do you have an hour?
Unfortunately, we do not.
No.
But yes, that is generally what we say for our career loans clients. The micro loan is prime plus 2%. Our partners being HSBC is who decides the prime rates. Moving on to some questions for Anne, one of our listeners typed, you talked about apps that can give some cashbacks on grocery expenditures. Could you provide a bit more information on this?
Sure, absolutely. And yeah, just very quickly, prime rate is a rate that is considered a base rate. So all the banks work off of a prime rate, and then they decide on top of that how much extra they're going to charge. It's they're borrowing money from the Bank of Canada essentially, and it's something like that. So it's just a base rate. It gets published. It's public information. You can just Google prime rate of Canada today, and it will give you what that base rate is. But prime plus 2 is a very nice rate. Good job. Mm-hmm. So the apps to get cash back. So first of all, you can have cashback credit cards, but there are other ones like if you're doing any online shopping, you may have seen the ads for Rakuten. I just got my check today. I'm very excited. It's over here. because essentially big companies like to do market research, and this is a great way for them to do it. So there's one called Checkout 51, where you take a photo. I talk with my hands a lot, which is great for webinars. Where you take a photo of your receipt from the grocery store and you send it in to Checkout 51, and different manufacturers are looking in for information, not exactly about you, but they want to know typically in, within the one particular pocket of Calgary, that somebody who's buying Honey Nut Cheerios also buys Tropicana orange juice. It's market information for them, or that this person also tends to buy every week or something like that. So they'll give different rewards or different commission for different products that get purchased. So you get a little bit back, and when your total reaches $20, Checkout 51 will send you a check for $20. So you're shopping anyway, you might as well get paid for it. Or some of the grocery stores that have different rewards programs, they'll have different promotions through the weeks to say, okay, this week we're giving you 10 extra points for if you buy this cream cheese, and 20 extra points if you buy this toilet paper. So, checking rewards and stacking them. So using one loyalty program consistently, not altering your behavior, but if you can make it work to your advantage, by all means. Just keep in mind, there's a reason why these rewards programs typically offer points in denominations of thousands. They make you feel like you're getting a lot, and encouraging you to spend. So when a friend spends 20 minutes on the phone with President's Choice or PC Optimum because they didn't give me the 800 points for the toothpaste I bought that was on my promotions, and I've been on hold for 20 minutes, and then I realize it's 80 cents and I need to just calm down. Yeah. Absolutely. So if you could make them work for yourself, why not? And also, to be honest, right now, every product you buy has a 1-800 number on it. From toothpaste to tomato sauce. Call the 1-800 number. Hi, I really like your spaghetti sauce. May I please have a coupon? What's the worst they can say? Or if you have a product, years ago, I was changing my daughter's diaper at 3 a.m. and the tab came off. I was not amused. Called them in the morning. I had to read some numbers off a box so they could go fix whatever machine wasn't working, and they sent me coupons for 3 free boxes of diapers.
Oh, wow.
So yeah,
Amazing.
what's the worst they can say? No, big deal. I'll move on to the next one. But in this day and age, they need consumers, so they should be rewarding you.
Great. We do have a few more questions, but we do want to keep this webinar to an hour as well. I just wanted to thank everyone for joining us. And if you did have any more questions, Anne and Claudia are available through email, online anytime. I'll share that information in a bit. But one last thing on Career Loans part is that we also have an upcoming webinar next week. And this is a webinar titled Opportunities in the Healthcare Field. It's going to be next Wednesday from 11 a.m. to 12:30 Mountain Time. And this is hosted by the Edmonton Region Immigrant Employment Council. So please feel free to visit their website for more detail, or just search up ERIEC for more information. And with that being said, I want to thank Anne, and I want to thank everyone who came on to today's webinar for your time. I know for me, it was definitely a great learning experience. Here you can see all the contact information. If you want to get in touch with Claudia, that's the Career Loans Saskatchewan number. The toll-free and email are right there. If you're a citizen of Alberta, toll-free and information email also available for our colleague Radhika. And as you can see as well, Ann Arbor can be reached. Her phone number is also noted down there as well. So we're all happy and willing to help. And I just want to give one last round of applause to everyone. Thank you, Anne. Thank you, Claudia.
Thank you so much. It was fantastic having you on board, Anne.
Thank you. Anytime. My pleasure. My pleasure.
And one last thing before I forget. as the content creator, I do want to plug our own social media channels. So follow us on Career Loans on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and Twitter. And of course, for more information on Career Loans, the website is down there in the bottom, www.careerloans.ca. Take care, everyone.
Thank you so much again. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Anne. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll be in touch. Take care.